Hi, Kim. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good.
Good, good. Hard to believe,
I'm
but
shuttered in.
what's new? What's new in the world? I mean, there's not a whole lot going on right now.
Actually, what is new in my world right now is groceries, because Boulder is now under shelter in place. And before last night, because that's when we got the like an Amber Alert text,
Mm.
the blah blah, and so you're officially under shelter in place. Only going out for food or pharmacy is pretty much it, and everything is delivery. So um, we haven't had really an issue. And I go on to our grocery stores are King Supers and which is let's see, and we also have Safeway. Safeway is I think
I'm familiar with
Kroger.
Safeway. I know Safeway stores.
Okay, and or maybe King Supers is the Kroger brand. But anyway, um, our pickup date is Monday evening. We have
You have
almost
specified
five
days.
days, almost 5 days before the first available for us to pick up food.
Oh my
That's in the
gosh!
grocery store.
Wow. You just can't go at any time that you want.
No, you're not allowed in the store, so everything's closed.
Oh my
So
gosh!
you place an order, and then it's either delivered or it's for pickup. And sorry, I have all these notifications coming in like you. And so yeah, the first thing remember, we're mostly a plant-based. I'm vegan,
Mm-hmm.
but the family, not everyone is, and we're mostly plant-based eaters, mostly of fresh produce, and we're used to going about every 3 days. It's just kind of crazy. Now I feel like I'm on some episode of, I don't know, Chopped or something, where I need to start getting creative with my chocolate covered raisins and
Mm-hmm. I haven't
almonds.
even looked at the. I haven't even looked at the data for your state. Let's bring that up real quick.
We have 16 confirmed cases so far,
There's a great
but
website. I'll
last week I think it was 11, so we've only gone up here 5.
Okay. All right. Well, and again, like some of the states and how they've, whoa, how they've reacted to everything, and how this took place and went down. It's just been so. God, I don't know.
Oh, by the way, before I forget,
Yeah.
a retired nurse sent me a podcast, and and I know it's one of those, well, how do you trust it? And a friend of a friend of a friend type of thing. But a retired nurse sent it to me, so I do trust this source.
Mm-hmm.
And the podcast was with someone who does work with the Harvard Medical School. Harvard Medical School, and said, do not take ibuprofen.
Oh, is that right?
It kickstarts the virus into pneumonia. So acetaminophen apparently is fine. So that would be like a brand name would be Tylenol,
Uh huh.
but ibuprofen, a brand name would be Advil. And they're like, no, 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 no. Don't touch it at all. If you think that it's experiencing symptoms and you want a pain reliever, don't take ibuprofen.
Yeah, I heard that as well. But here, like in my state, we're on the same kind of lockdown, but we are allowed to go to the pharmacy, go to the grocery store. Um, it is a significantly different. There's been people out there walking in the streets, like the sunny. We had a sunny day finally here, and it was so nice to see because people were out doing things again. And yeah. So I just can't believe like the craziness that we're experiencing right now, and I totally get like in terms of the government wanting to react and do something. I'm just always just very cautious of the efforts they put forth, primarily because there's so many people. We're in fear right now, and when those things happen, we're managed out of fear, and that's unfortunately taking place. But I think also that the industry in itself, the cannabis industry and everything, is missing a great opportunity. Actually, government is missing a great opportunity to really assess things for our industry, because it applies not only to health, the situation going on, but also the struggle for banking and finance. Thank goodness in most states that I know of, dispensaries have been allowed to remain open.
I, you know, and they're making huge sales. I see some posts on my feed that will say something like, and I'm not a drinker, used to be, but but I still think they're all very funny. And it said something like, "Well, I'm on my third round of buying enough liquor for the next 2 weeks," or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and you know that's what everyone's doing. And at the dispensary, the sales are just skyrocketing. Same effect, maybe, but
Potentially, yes, yes. So, I know that the administration, they took a look at the what do they call it? The compassionate care, in terms of being they're
yeah,
streamlining drugs, they're streamlining, where particular protocols where they're allowing different medications to be used for different things. And they're really trying to streamline that process. And so when you think of like right now, I can't imagine the amount of anxiety that's being managed out there right now, not only with students being at home, but with families being tight. God, my gosh, this takes us completely out of our normal, even our well-being, being almost confined like this. So that anxiety for CBD, but I think it was a missed opportunity where the legislators could have came forth and said, hey, medical cannabis right now, you're approving drugs, you want to streamline vaccines and everything else like that, but at least acknowledge that medical cannabis does help.
exactly.
And if people want to do it right now, let's go ahead and legalize it because it's the right thing to do in this situation.
Yeah, before it became a big deal in America, it I made a post on a cannabis specific group in Facebook saying that I'm really surprised that more dispensaries and growers that they're not coming out and saying, listen, fresh raw cannabis is one of the most nutritious things that you could put into your body, number one. Number two, and you're not talking about the flower at all. You know, you're talking about everything except for the flower. And again, going through antispasmodic, antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral, an expectorant. You know, I mean, they keep going on that I guess the traditional society would say, traditional pharmaceutical society would say, oh, those are all the things that we need, excuse me, in different categories to maintain my health or to deal with the virus if I do have any of the symptoms. Not saying when you get into a hospitalized situation. I, no, that's why I say pharmaceuticals should be reserved for emergencies, you know? But in the meantime, growers should be allowed to, without the flower, to sell in mass, in bulk, so that people can juice and they can put it into their diets, because this is exactly what we do need. We're getting more to realizing all these health benefits that the plant has. And now that we're in this scare, but you know, if you can't wash your hands and you can't keep your distance from people, then keep a high immunity. And
Mm,
how do you do that? It's
mm.
not through chemically processed food. As much as we love a Dorito, you know, they're yummy. They're not good for you at all, you know? So, I think that's what we're missing huge time in the industry in general. I'm very disappointed on a federal level that whomever suggested it, but then when the president came out and highly recommended, there's great promise in this malaria drug, and now people are dying because it hasn't been tested, and you know, it's just people build a strong immunity, wash your hands. You know, let's go back to some basics instead of this fear mongering.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, we're considered a high risk family because my son's asthmatic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's definitely reason to be concerned, even more so. Well, even some simple things like what you alluded to, as far as, building your immune system, encouraging people right now to say, hey, you know what? Go take some extra vitamin C, some extra vitamin D. But also just in terms of implementing, this would have been a great time for us to really focus on our health and, to say, get some programs out there saying, hey, you know what? You're going to be at home. It's going to be real challenging to keep the weight off. So, exactly what you alluded to. So let's eat healthier, America. Not that we can force people to, but gosh, I can't sit here and count. Probably imagine the amount of either obesity or the new diabetes cases are going to be started, and because of this, because of people not being able to go out, get their exercise and everything else. And so I don't know. I think the toll, when it's all said and done, I think we'll look back at this and say, you know what? we get that there was an urgency to move through this, but you really can't stop Mother Nature. Now, I don't want to be insensitive because I know people like the elderly, people like your son with health conditions, absolutely, be cautious of that. And I think even the mayor De Blasio alluded to the other day. He said, and I heard this because I was actually listening to it, that if he could go back and rethink this, that maybe locking everyone up wasn't the right thing to do for public health during that time period. There's already cases where people are saying they have some immunity build up to it, that potentially that whole flow through that's going to take place. And my fear, Kim, is that we go through this process, that we're all locked up, we're all doing this, and then we return life to normal as maybe if there is a new normal, and then there's another case in a school or at a church, and do we repeat the same process over again? But yeah, it's just so interesting times that we're living in, the way that this is being looked at, the way that now unfortunately everything gets politicized for certain agendas, but we have no problem passing a $2 trillion spending bill, giving the performing arts $1 million, and
which, by the way, the marijuana industry gets zero.
Right.
Because it's federally illegal.
Bingo. So that's a great point.
How horrible. And they're, in my opinion, they're huge supporters of what's going on right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Trying to keep people's health. People who don't understand the plant or the medicinal qualities, they're just going to say, oh, you just want to get high. Well, that's the same thing as going to a liquor store and saying you just want to get drunk. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, actually, you do when you get But we know that there are so many that spectrum of what the plant offers does allow for a healthy immunity, homeostasis, the whole thing. Whereas if that's what you're looking for to keep America healthy,
right? Yeah. Well, even like this past year, where we watched the House and Senate kick the cannabis banking bill that was actually passed in the House down the road, where the Senate very easily could have said, yeah, right. And look at the national emergency that's taking place now, where we have the Federal Reserve that's literally overnight pumping $1 trillion into the banks, just to keep the banks solvent. So why not just go ahead and say, we made a mistake. We're going to go ahead and executive order that the cannabis industry, the hemp industry, come open up your bank accounts. Well, wait till this mandatory shutdown period. But when this is said and done, let's go ahead and bring the industry into the banking system. Let's allow these industries to get funded properly, for us to have the same, apply for loans. I heard a story the other day where someone was denied a loan. They signed I think it was like a 3 or 5 year arm. They're in the industry and they go in, and because they can't validate their source of income, you're an illegal thing. So therefore they're struggling to even find a mortgage right now to help them out. So fortunately, I think their bank was going to give them, some type of extension or work with them. But yeah, so all these things that don't need to take place, there's plenty of other opportunities we could do this, but what better time to allow the banks to bring all that cash into the banking system?
Seriously. I mean, it's ever talk about a prodigal child coming home, come on home, sweetheart.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for you.
But you alluded to some information that I had read a little bit in regards to, cannabis, and, not that this is medical advice or anything like that. Talk to your medical professional first and all that kind of good stuff. That's our little disclaimer. But you said there's some interesting things where people have said, hey, you know what? Cannabis probably can help for this coronavirus.
It can. And doctors are coming out and saying, listen, it sounds antagonistic. The same thing with being asthmatic. That vaping is actually, with 2% THC, vaping is very good for asthmatics. It in seconds, it opens them up and allows for, the expectorant, so coughing out the phlegm. And for those who don't have asthma, it may seem like, oh, you're just short of breath, but really it feels like you're suffocating. And that brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah, having a son, I'm sure you've had those moments, Kim, with your son. I'm sure it's very frightening. Very frightening.
He just fell on the floor. He just wasn't breathing. There was nothing that led up to it. And you can't do anything.
That's scary.
Except panic.
That's scary.
So to know that there's something out there that really does help him. Excuse me, I can't see.
No, you're
Um,
fine.
that and he's not on it yet because um, his father and I, we have to agree on a course of action and whatnot. So I just keep educating him through the process. But in the meantime, it allows for people out here, people who don't know what it's like to be asthmatic. Your throat, it spazzes up, and you're like,
Mhm.
and your chest does, and sometimes your hands will cramp up, and it's almost like a seizure. Um, Only you just can't breathe, so you just throw that component in there. And when you take the cannabinoids as a whole plant and see how it can benefit the body just in breathing,
Hmm. Hmm.
just in breathing, it's absolutely amazing. Um, how many people are going to be taking ibuprofen and then kicking themselves into a worse situation,
Hmm.
as opposed to this plant that's federally illegal, but it could help your situation. Not saying that, when you're hospitalized, that's a completely different ball game. But meanwhile, you can keep yourself healthy, and you can eliminate a lot of those shit feelings,
Hmm. Yeah.
really, that's the
Yeah.
best way to put it. Because then after you have an asthma attack, then you're just spent. You're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm sure that you probably had, those moments, and I completely understanding, you're talking about your child, so I totally get it. And speaking in regards to the industry, but not only helping people out, how many people right now are struggling with some type of anxiety that CBD and cannabidiol could help, and that's going to take a psychological effect starting, it already has with either the adults or the
Yeah.
kids, and taking them out of their normal setting. It's going to be very difficult, and maybe not in our neighborhoods or in our school systems, but that's another area that I'm very sensitive about, is that in some of our more challenging areas, school was the one safe place for our kids to go.
Right.
That was their best meal of the day, was the school, them going to school. So think about those kids now that are in those situations. How many stories will we eventually hear that some of the kids didn't make it through this, and that's just very,
Yeah,
very unfortunate.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The big thing is just opening up our heart space and being good to one another, and just offering, how can I help, or what do you need? That those are big
That's all it
things.
takes. You're absolutely right.
Seriously, just ask
Yeah.
those two
Yeah,
questions.
little sensitive, little things that make sense. If you're happen, I know that you can't, but I know that we do here in my community. If I'm running to the grocery store because I can, I will send a text to my two neighbors and say, "Hey, I'm running out. Do you need anything?"
Right.
Just simple things like that. I was very mindful. I was in a line. I'll admit, our guilt here at my house is we do like Starbucks. We do. I like my double shot espresso and things of that nature. And our Starbucks are still open. We can go through the drive-through.
All
So
right.
yeah, so I went to the Starbucks. You're probably looking at me like, oh my God, I can't even believe you're getting out of the house right now. But yeah, so I tried to, but so yeah, so I went to Starbucks, and like everyone was like, hey, yeah, I'll take this and this. So I had like 6 or 7 items, and as I'm sitting there realizing that the car behind me, there was just one person, and I could tell that like
That's what I was
they were looking at their watch, and I'm like, oh shoot, they don't pull you ahead and everything. So I told
thinking. Like,
the
figures, I get behind this
yeah,
guy.
so uh, whenever I was going to pay, I'm saying, hey, you know what? I wanted to make sure first. I said, how many orders do you have? He's like, oh, he just has a coffee or something like that. And I said, go ahead and I'll pay it forward. Go ahead and put it on my check. I'll pay for that right now. So, just, little things like that. And we're hearing terrific stories, Kim. That's what I love. I have more faith, so much more faith in humanity than I do our government. You're hearing these stories of people going to the grocery store, and that elderly person that couldn't find the toilet paper or couldn't find the item that they need, and the person in front of them said, hey, you know what, I bought two, I don't need to take two, here's one. And so those are the stories that I like to hear, and I know there's numerous like that, on how it is important during these times to look for those little things that we can
Yeah,
do to help each other.
exactly. And it's something that I've noticed, um, that's coming to my mind every time and we don't have TV, so of course we just see the live feeds that of the press conferences. But every time the Mayor Cuomo or Governor Cuomo is talking about how upset he is with the government, and then how the government is fighting back with him. And I think maybe this is the impetus that tells us that it's okay. We really can handle things on a local level.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe our federal government needs an overhaul.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing. Well, no, you that's a very valid point, because that's the only conversation that's not taking place right now. We're hearing about companies that are laying off, how companies are having to assess things and say, well, I got to make a decision here. I may not make it through this, so I'm going to have to close my doors, whatever. But the only section that we don't have that's really what you said, kind of, well, I like to coin it reinventing government.
Yeah.
I'll give you an easy case scenario. So my gun permit expired. Okay, so I was trying to hurry and get everything done, prior to everything shutting down. I went online to the state police, did that. I uploaded my ID. I went for my fingerprints and everything. So the final step here in Indiana to obtain your gun permit is to go to your city office. You have to go to your city police department, because there has to be some final check to look at your ID and match it to the person that's physically there in front of you, because most of it's done online. And then there's just quick paperwork you fill out. They collect their $40 there as well. That they love it. So I emailed like 2 days prior to the closing, and I went online. And they said, do not just come walking in. They don't want you to do that. They want you to send an email, and that they'll schedule you an appointment. So I scheduled an email and said, hey, I can come in either Tuesday or Wednesday morning. Like to get this accomplished. Well, I didn't get an email back till like Thursday or Friday, and it was from the particular city that I live in. They're like, oh, we're sorry. The mayor deemed that not a necessity department to keep open right now. I'm like, wait a minute. Our constitutional rights provide us the right to bear arms. In terms of keeping my family safe, something I want to do. Do you want me to violate the law by doing this? So I'm like, okay, well, let's think about this. If that office of government is considered a non-essential branch or division of government to be operational, then why do we need it? And I said, I think it's a fair question. If we can close some of these departments that they're not for the people or for the business, that it's just basically fill cover and shut it down. Well, then shut it down, and shut it down for good.
Yeah.
Just let me walk. Why do we have to have that protocol? But interesting that you said that in regards to government, because I think these are times when people can help each other. Stop waiting for that wake on. And I feel sorry for a lot of those. Gosh, I think about the people in all the different sectors, like the retail, the restaurants. I read an interesting report. I actually heard the interesting report the other day that even people with a household income of ranging from $65,000 to $85,000 a year, that particular range, that even those people struggle, like on a weekly basis, paycheck to paycheck basis.
Oh yeah.
To keep up with things. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's very alarming. So imagine the person busting their ass working 2 jobs at like either a restaurant, and then they have their other hustle that they're doing. And then all of a sudden the income stream just drops, just is dead. And,
Yep.
So I'm hoping that humanity can pull through. I know in my community that like all disconnect things they're canceling those. So they're not disconnecting anyone's electricity, anyone's water, and things of that nature right now. So boy, I tell you what, how do we get through this? How we get by? And I'm just hoping that we get through this time period. I hope this isn't something. I get a little bit nervous because I start to hear, Kim, in the news stories coming from like China. They say, well, the infection rate is bad, but the reinfection rate is even worse. So
I was going to say, there's going to be
wave.
a second round.
Yeah, the second round. So again, hopefully we can go through this and think smarter. And I would love to see a national movement, a national push from our industry. We get all the different industry players, all the great advocates, and we say, hey, not that we're missing out. I don't want to use that fair. That's not the right term, but think about this sensibly. Why wouldn't you do those things for our industry, right now? Just a really quick closing topic. I heard it interesting. One of the guys I follow, his name is Cliff High, and he reviews some woo-woo stuff, but a lot of the woo-woo stuff he says is actually accurate. But he's very concerned about the growing season that we're coming into. He said that this year, for the record, will be one of the most consolidated growing periods for not just our industry, but for American farmers as well. that
Yeah.
typically they wait, the ground's thawed out and everything. And he's talking anywhere between, like when I say short season, he's talking like 30 to 45 days.
Ooh.
That condensed of a time period, just because whatever type of things that he does with analyzing and everything else like that. So that's very concerning too, not only from our industry, but we have a lot of indoor grows and everything, but just from a food supply chain as well.
I think that because I had it, and I don't want this to sound like I'm mocking anyone's pain, because I went through 2 days of because my contract was on hold.
Oh gosh.
So your contract, I literally went from, it's okay, I'll be, family members and friends, like, what am I going to do? I'm like, I'll see how I can readjust my things so that, I'll share my rate with you. You can do some stuff. And then all of a sudden I was out. So, it was just a tumbling of cards. And luckily my client came back and said, no, we're good. We had to reshift. But during that time period, and since then, I thought, why are we not bartering?
Yeah. Yep.
There is
Bingo.
absolutely no reason why we value for value, but also keeping an open heart space, not, I'll take your Apple computer for a roll of toilet paper, not stupidity, because bartering is really about, this is only what I need. What do you need? I happen to have it. I have extra. I don't need this, whatever or your skill set. And that's when I am doing exactly what I love and what's in my soul contract, what I'm supposed to do. If you're willing to do something for absolute free, and you love it that much, you're in the right place.
Right.
You're in the right career.
Love it.
Share it. At this time, people don't have money, and who knows when we're going to be getting relief or whatnot. So offer it out, value for value, in some way, shape, or form, to your family, to your community, your business network. We're all going to be, let's say marketing. Okay. I will accept bartering and provide marketing for that.
Yeah.
So we just need to be open to each other in more ways.
Yep. Kim, that's such a beautiful message. I'm going to close it with that. That's such a beautiful message. No, really, that's such a beautiful message for what I think a lot of us need to hear as we're navigating through this. So, my encouragement is, like what you said, is find ways to help each other and be strong together as a community. That's what we have to be, and be there for each other right now. Any closing thoughts or any updates that you'd like to provide in regards to the cannabis sessions or Harvest and Plume?
Yes. Matter of fact, and thank you. It's brand spanking new. Haven't done any marketing material for it yet, but we're opening up from a marketing perspective, like the magazines. If you like the magazines, but you want your own, whether it's for your brand, maybe you want to distribute it, but however you want to distribute it, I'll put it into the same format. It'll be, the experience for you. And so we're just now starting to roll that out. Aside from that, big love.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're going to be, from our work group, we're going to be putting something out, understanding that people's purses, their wallets are real tight right now. And so we're going to be, and the anxiety level is off the charts. So we're going to be working on a couple different products. We're going to be putting out. It's one of the benefits of being small batch and how we manufacture, that literally when we did the cost analysis, we don't even make a penny. Like, we're almost doing at a loss just to help people to get this out, because understanding that the anxiety and the stress level is going to be off the charts for so many. We don't want people to revert to alcohol and to end up with some other type of addiction that's going to do more harm, down the road. So yeah, so I it's been a great podcast. It's been 2 weeks since I think that we've been able to join. We've both been busy, and some other.
It's been longer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So this is Carlos and Kim with another Speaking Bluntly podcast. Make sure to go ahead and check out all of Kim's work and what she's doing. Her main channel is the and I brought this up, is the Pipeline Strategies, where she helps businesses, organizations with everything from talent acquisition, leadership, public speaking as well. And you can find her work there at You Are Recruiting Pro. And then also check out her LinkedIn profile, which is Kim McCarthy there, and all the great work that she's doing with a lot of organizations and companies. So, Kim, thank you for a great podcast, and we'll do this again next Friday.
Perfect. Take
Excellent.
care.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.